Welcome back to the channel. So last time we introduced a new engine that we're building, the Howell Miser low temp Stirling engine. So we got started, went over looked at the plans and looked at some material and then got some material cut out. So the first thing we're going to do is start on this flywheel blank here that we've got cut out. So to get started on this, the first thing I'm going to do is relieve this center section here that gets thinned out here from the sides to 175 here in the middle. And then there is a radius here on the side. But in order to start working this material out, I am going to put it in the chuck on the lathe and we're going to trepan it, use the trepanning tool, and then go ahead and get some of this material worked out from both sides. And then we're going to leave this corner here sharp, and then we're going to come back with a form tool, just a high-speed steel tool bit, and then we'll get this radius here, ground on it, and then we'll cut this radius here after we get this material moved out. So let's get it mounted up in the lathe and get started. Okay, we're set up over here on the mill now. I got the flywheel cut out, so I used the trepanning tool. I've talked about it before, but in case you don't know what that is, it's basically a cutoff tool that has a radius on the end. So we were able to plunge in here and work it down and work all this material out a little bit at a time, and then take a cleanup pass. And then there's a radius cut here and a radius cut here on the inside. And I was able to just use a forming tool with a radius on it to come in here and cut these radiuses. So we're ready to start cutting the triangle sections out now. So we'll be left with 5 spokes. So we're set up on the rotary table, and I put my 4-jaw chuck on here. I don't have a 3-jaw chuck that's big enough to fit on this rotary table. It's only a 4-jaw. So we centered up the rotary table. Then I put a pin in here, and then we centered up the flywheel. So I've got all of my coordinates marked out to cut the first 5 holes, and then my coordinates to cut the next 10 holes on the outer, and what the radius is. So we'll get those holes cut, and then machine slots out here, and then to machine these straight sections, we will have to move the table and offset this. Then we'll machine out the straight sections, and then that'll take out the triangle there. And then on this outer edge, we'll take a ball end mill, and then it gets a groove. It gets 5 grooves machined in it. And I've got the coordinates laid out for that. And then once we get all that done, then we'll flip it over and machine the same grooves on the other side. So I've made a test cut already, just using a 1/4-inch end mill 2 flute to plunge through this. So we'll get all these holes done first, and then my plan is to cut out this section here. This is a 1/4 inch, and to cut this section out here with a 3/16 end mill, and then come back and do a cleanup pass with the 1/4 inch and see if that does a little better job. So we'll get to it. Okay, so that finishes up the machining on the flywheel. So saw me coming here with a 3/16 end mill, and then I cut this slot on all 5 sections. Then we took an 1/8" ball end mill and cut these grooves here. Then to cut this here, you have to offset the table. So I had to move my table in this direction. And then I had to get the angle right on this, because this from top to bottom total has a 2-degree angle. So 1 degree on each side. So where your normal angle would be, then you got to go 1 degree more and then get the right offset. So then I cut out these 5 slots here. Then we reverse the table to the other offset to the other side, and then cut these slots out here. So that took out the whole center section, then centered everything back up again, and then offset. And then where I had cut this with 3/16 end mill, I came back in and cleaned it up with a 1/4" end mill. I probably should have done that on both of these also, but I did cut them with a 1/4. Then I cut them just a little bit shallow, and then I actually cleaned it up a little bit with the die filer to blend this in, to blend these straight edges into this radius. So after we machined all that out and this and these slots, then flipped it over, got it lined back up, and then took an 1/8" ball end mill and machined these slots on this side. Then I put it back in the lathe in the drill chuck, and then this was a 1/4 inch, but it's supposed to be 9/32. So we drilled and reamed that out to 9/32, and then I just cleaned up, made a couple thou pass on these edges here to clean this up. So turned out good. Everything looks good, matches the print. So that's going to do it for the flywheel, and that's going to do it for this episode. So we'll come back next time, and we'll hopefully have the screws for the displacer plate, so I can go ahead and get the holes drilled in that, and then we can continue working on that. Thanks for watching.